And you have 1 hour for your presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So I am very, very excited. Thank y'all. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Del Valle, and I am founder and CEO of FinSat, a company using proprietary data and analytics, aiming at mitigating risk around infrastructure, land, and properties. So we're very, very excited, and we focus specifically on the impacts and risks around climate change. My background, I'm a biomedical engineer, and I've worked in the space tech environment for some time now. And it's really an honor to really address this topic around space education and how we can leverage space technology for all of us to have a better understanding of Earth-based applications. So that's really what I'm going to focus on today. And some of the tools in the topic today really covers, if you can't see it, you can't believe it, which is one of the first things that really came to mind to start FinSat. And it all stems from satellites and how we can use satellites to mitigate risk and protect ourselves on Earth. Excited to dive in, but before I do, I'm going to talk a little bit about data and how using the power visualization really helps as a communication tool. And I'll talk a little bit about what that means to me and how I use it and how we apply it as a team at FinSat. So a little bit of a background and some data points specifically on really why visualization is so powerful in order to understand complex engineering topics, such as we focus specifically on climate modeling and building weather models. So we actually visualize this through digital twins. And this stems from really, we wanted to grasp deep understanding to the audience for them to any stakeholder in the city to be able to understand the power of satellite data and how we can analyze it. So the human brain processes visual information in less than 13 milliseconds. So they'll already capture the screen, and up to 90% of the information transmitted to the brain is often visual. So the topic, we'd like to just further express understanding through communication and visualization. And it really starts with how I kind of grew up. So this is an interesting slide. My sister is an artist, and her story, she really taught me what it means to understand through visualization. So my sister began to speak a little bit later in life and around the age of 7. Before then, she created all of these masterpieces. So she really learned to communicate through art and expression. And that was her unique way of expressing herself through images. We have drawings and paintings all the way up before, it's just a whole timeline. And this is one of her most recent pieces in the past couple of years. And she has really a beautiful imagination and translates that and what she sees in the world into something that can express what she's trying to portray. So that kind of really helped resonate with me. Her reliance on visual expression helps me understand that this is a really core piece of communication to comprehend and express what people are trying to share. So sometimes we often need to see to believe. So this is a bit of my sister's journey, and she ended up she's her artwork has been in Tibet all the way to galleries, and she's very, very amazing and has done very different mediums. So I decided, how do I take a piece of what my sister taught me as a thriving artist and apply this to my background and knowledge and know-how in specifically STEM, and help everybody understand the power of data and visualization. So specifically, we are focused on visualization. So space has always been humanity's ultimate canvas of imagination. For millennia, we have gazed at the night sky, constructing stories, myths, scientific theories based on visual representation of what we see. So from telescopes that have expanded our vision, allowing us to really try to understand the unknown throughout the cosmos. And this relationship between seeing and believing is particularly potent in space exploration. Every breakthrough, every mission begins with someone's ability to visualize what others consider impossible. When John F. Kennedy declared the audacious goal of landing a man on the moon, he wasn't just making a political statement, he was sharing a vision so vivid and compelling that it has transformed human potential and really motivates us to explore beyond Earth. So this visual proof of our interconnectedness sparked a new awareness of our shared responsibility to care for this singular home that we call Earth. The Apollo missions were more than technological achievements. They were visual revolutions. When astronauts captured the iconic image of our blue planet, we were able to see the overview, the overview effect, and often referred to as, I believe, Earthrise. And this has really helped a lot of, at least folks that I've heard, astronauts, speak about how precious our early is. So when we're looking here at this vision of our Earth, and we can see and try to imagine how precious it is and how expansive the cosmos is, and our approach is to today using satellite imagery to zoom in on our precious planet and understand the intricacies and try to extract information that can help us live better lives. So with satellite imaging, drones, and advanced mapping systems, this has helped us give sight to people on Earth of all of the complexities. We can now observe rainforests from space, we track melting glaciers, precipitation, and you name it. The ability to see Earth as it changes allows us not to just marvel at its beauty, but also protect it. Technology has taken that perspective even further, transforming this visual understanding into a dynamic, predictive science. We no longer just observe it, we anticipate it, and we can act on it. Advanced imaging systems allow us to map terrains, track climate changes, predict natural disasters, and understand complex ecological systems with unprecedented precision. From monitoring deforestation in the Amazon to tracking hurricane formations and comprehensive visual narrative of our planet's continuous transformation, allowing us as humans to adapt and also live symbiotically with the other life forms on our planet. And it also helps us map out how we're going to really build specifically on the moon. Take the lessons learned and apply it in a more efficient way. And that's the goal. And in space technology, oftentimes has a really great way of having closed loop systems that really promote sustainability, which is our core focus at FinSat. So really, I would love to focus on specifically how FinSat really focuses on connecting the artist's eye into science. So this is one of our digital twins, it's just a snapshot of it, and specifically how we simulate water-related risks and floods with real-time mapping, but also in a really, really visual, crisp way. And I have a surprise for everyone at the very end as well to showcase this a little bit more and how we've advanced. So specifically, I would love to just focus on, these are our solutions. Feel free to peruse. But We are focused on specifically tracking climate changes, predicting natural disasters, and understanding complex ecological systems with precision. From monitoring deforestation to tracking hurricane formations in the Atlantic, space-based technologies provide us with a comprehensive visual narrative of our planet's continuous transformation. Consider how imagery, satellite imagery, has revolutionized our understanding of climate change by capturing detailed visual data of ice caps melting, forest coverage changes, urban expansion, and ocean temperature shifts. We've moved from abstract discussions where scientists and engineers can really play a role in discussing, but really advancing this to a more concrete visual evidence that anyone can understand. These images are not just pictures, they're scientific, they have a rooted scientific basis, and they tell compelling stories about our planet's health and the future. So by analyzing satellite data, scientists can foresee droughts, hurricanes, and other weather-related extreme events. These forecasts save lives. They really help with mapping out routes for evacuations. Also helps us model and protect anywhere from urban growth to coral reefs. If we now think of adding modeling, digital twins, and artificial intelligence, we have the possibility of not only observing but predicting, and that's really what we've used our digital twins for, is really to simulate what could happen in the future and predicting that to help identify and evaluate risk. But it's very important for us to not only service through analytics, but also showcase this, because as you can imagine, seeing the scenarios of how the changes in the environment and climate can impact our land, lives, and most importantly, our education and understanding of these impacts and risks. And we may seek and find actionable solutions faster. And that's one of our hypotheses, is that if everybody can be on the same page, maybe we can act together in a more stronger, productive way. So the convergence of modeling digital twins and artificial intelligence with satellite data really brings us to this transformative leap in technology and how we understand and address climate change. So digital twins are virtual replicas of physical systems, and they really allow us to simulate different climate scenarios. When we integrate with satellite data, these models provide us near real-time insights into the dynamic changes of Earth's ecosystems, from floods to urban heat in different regions, and that can have a numerous amount of use cases. Artificial intelligence helps us amplify this capability, and we're able to process large amounts of data as a team to really not only get the data and analyze the data, but it allows us, it helps us be a little bit more efficient, and then allows us to take an additional step to visualize it, which is very important for us, and communication of the rising risks and impacts and opportunities for us to proactively adapt with our rapidly changing climate in certain regions. And this helps us protect lives and infrastructure and everything in between. So these technologies not only enhance our ability to visualize the future, but empower us to mitigate risks and optimize resource use, safeguarding both human lives and the natural world. By transforming complex data sets into comprehensible, actionable insights and allowing us to see the potential consequences, this integration really redefines our approach to sustainability, resilience, and the stewardship of our planet. So we're very excited. We'll touch on a few of our solutions. We do a predictive risk analysis for flooding and land degradation. And this helps us with we do 3D we actually do 3D mapping using satellite imagery, and that helps us build some of our digital twins, some of the data that goes into it, and helps for real-time, near real-time analysis of urban planning and disaster response. So this really helps promote cross collaboration between municipalities as well as the private sector, and really gives civilians as a stakeholder a chance to enter into a level of understanding that is far more granular but accessible. So we do leverage a lot of artificial intelligence to enhance our modeling for climate-based scenarios and mitigation planning and strategies. So this benefits us in a multitude of ways. Forecasting risk for climate really helps us increase our accuracy for protecting and mitigating risks, and it can reduce specifically different project delays for infrastructure. And I could go on and on, but and I'll talk about some of our use cases and how it's really, really interesting that how satellite data can be used for numerous amounts of use cases on Earth. So specifically, this is kind of a really fun slide that specifically shows how, all of these stories and that we've seen from specifically Hollywood does a really, really great job actually at 3D modeling, and we really are inspired by how evocative the message that is always transpired through film for our digital twins. And so this really helps us take our data and provide it in a way that people can remember, because they can see it in a way that they see the world. So this helps us specifically for our flood analysis and really transferring that communication abroad. So specifically, it's really interesting, and this will make sense when I show the slide at the very end, or my surprise for everyone. But another thing to note is, like Pokemon Go is a really great way to engage people, and this is it's specifically an augmented reality solution to engage people in the real world. Now, we are not Pokemon Go, but it's a really interesting correlation between people and seeing something in a simulated way, right? Kind of a digital twin of Pikachu, and and then actually exploring the earth and around them. And that's one of the visions of leveraging our digital twin technology for communication, really engaging people in this topic of climate change. So specifically, we have some other examples of how other cities have used visualization in urban planning. There are digital twins of cities. This is Singapore. Singapore is a very interesting place, and both from a technology, from a technology perspective, but also a very rich culture as well. And this is if you just imagine, you can already imagine yourself there, and you can better understand the city through this 3D modeling digital twin. It really does help us save on predicting outcomes, so trial by error before we actually implement these solutions in the real world. This is how visualization and 3D modeling really helps simulate what we are aiming to do, and evaluate if that actually has the impact that we hypothesized it would. So specifically, we are focused on some of the stuff that we do. We are focused on visualization for flood risk. These are just some pictures of the aftermath of flood, and you can imagine having different climate-based scenarios on your city and showing how rain and heavy precipitation that is occurring, and the climate in different regions around the world, we found that the climate is changing. And so there is a direct correlation with floods and infrastructure, and we need to make sure we're properly planned. And infrastructure takes a long time to get funding and to do. We all know that. We've all been on, specifically, everybody knows when when a highway is under construction, it often takes a very long time, and it impacts us every single day. So same with floods. It is once you have a big disaster with a flood, it takes a long time to rebuild. One thing, when I was young, I'm originally from Dallas, and when I was in grade school, Hurricane Katrina hit, and we met a lot of Hurricane Katrina survivors because they actually migrated to Dallas and other regions. And that really impacted them because everything was destroyed in New Orleans, and being able to properly prepare your infrastructure is absolutely crucial. So specifically looking at weather modeling, leveraging satellite data and digital twins to simulate these different scenarios really does help municipalities not only prepare for evacuation and on the best places to help people evacuate, like specifically the Hurricane Katrina survivors did, but also it helps us pre-plan and rebuild stronger due to the changes that we're seeing in the climate. So if you can imagine with me how this can be impactful, that is very helpful for us. We have seen that in education. So one of our focuses is to really leverage our digital twins as a way to communicate across different regions, of just showing what are the excuse me, what are the impacts or potential impacts in your region, and what are the ideas, and how does a city and culture really react to these different events, and how could we help support with mitigation planning to help them reevaluate some of the infrastructure, some of how do you position your land and your buildings, and how do you make them stronger. So you can talk about that for ages, but I will stay focused on this slide and on education. Specifically, visualization tools teach young kids how to imagine ways to innovate in the future. So, showing our digital twins to students and asking, we just ask, what would you do? What would you build? And those simple questions really help drive a lot of insights, because everybody has really, really great ideas. And when you can share information rather than a scatter plot, but in a really visual, intuitive way, then you really give everybody a seat at the table. And we found that specifically through our research, that interactive visual learning increases STEM engagement by 30 to 40% for kids in primary school. And this dual perspective, looking outward into space and inward to Earth-based applications, enriches our understanding and our progress here on Earth. And it's super, super important, because our kids are the ones that are really going to pave the way to reforming some of our areas in the world that are changing, just because the Earth is constantly active, and we are, as humans, are both reactive and proactive. So I know it's really exciting to see the ideas that children come up with about what they would do. So the fact that we can model specifically longer term in duration, it really helps kind of plant that seed and then understand what concepts come out of this. And the UN actually did a really, really great, they had a really great tool. It was through, they created it through Minecraft. It was a Minecraft model for urban planning and I believe contests for students to kind of redesign cities and areas and actually installing some of these ideas in cities. And it's a really amazing end-to-end approach for urban planning. And with our closing thought, I would just really like to focus on, one quote. Vincent van Gogh is one of my favorite artists, and it really talks about what would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything. And he was an amazing visionary, and as everybody can imagine and knows, Starry Night. This is not Starry Night, of course, but the Starry Night is a beautiful, beautiful representation of his interpretation of the cosmos and the stars therein. So at FinSat, we believe that visualization gives us the courage and creativity to shape a better, resilient future with all city stakeholders, from the public sector to the private sector to our civilian stakeholders. So we're very, very excited to focus on unlocking the value of climate change impact on land and properties and infrastructure. So thank you. I know I would like to show just, I'm going to stop sharing and then I'll reshare my screen of one specific tool that when I did a little recording of our simulation, and I will share the screen. So we've modeled New York City and specifically mapped out flood risk in the region and how it really impacts the buildings and areas. So this is actually Southern Manhattan. We've zoomed in on the simulation. It's not very, see if I can slow down. It's kind of a quick video, but so if you can see, and this is the power of understanding, like compounded with topology mapping, as well as potential flood that is predicted year over year, and where the water will go, how it might damage certain assets based on how old the asset is, how the asset was configured. And that really helps us plan. And as you can see with this, it's far easier for me to explain now that I have a visual tool of just specifically, okay, well, where in the city is the water flowing? And these are specifically physics-based simulations, and that we have built in and coupled with our digital twin technology. And you can see how one might think about putting storm drains in different configurations, and really helps facilitate with urban planning. So this is some of the stuff that we do, really focusing primarily today on our visualization tool. And I would love to open up the floor for questions and really just to discuss anything about FinSat, and ask questions, please. So thank you so much for your time.
Fantastic. Thank you for your presentation. We actually have 30 more minutes, so we have lots of time. And I do have questions of my own, but I want to give opportunities for others to ask first. So feel free to raise your hand or post in the chat. If not, I will ask my question. And my question is related to different parts of the world. Where can we use this approach? Like in which geographical locations? Because I can imagine we do not have satellite coverage everywhere. So let's say there is like a village in the Czech Republic. Can this be used there for potential, I don't know, tornadoes in area that historically does not have tornadoes, but occasionally they occur. And when they do, it's a problem because people are not used to having tornadoes there, and there is no warning system. People are not trained what to do. And I'm
It's
not
a
sure
really,
this is
really,
yeah, this is an outlier question probably, but this is like specific. This is like related to area where I grew up among farmers, and there was a tornado. People were not used to it. The people who are doing the warning knew it may be coming, but they didn't want to warn the people because they didn't want to scare them, which to me is terrifying. I used to live in Texas. I used to live in Kansas. So there, everybody
oh,
knows
okay,
what
okay.
to. When you live in Kansas, you are in tornado area, right? So you know what to do if tornado happens. You have instructions on every door, including your dorm room, including bathroom, including like shower door room. You always know where your shelter is. You always know what to do. Then when you move to other places, maybe you don't have these kind of instructions, but you have sirens. If you move to places like Czech Republic, you don't even have the sirens and you don't know how to inform the public. So is this something that could be applied to these situations, or is it like more focusing on like water rising?
So it's a very, very good question. Thank you so much. I think it really, really highlights the dynamics of using it as a communication tool to really engage civilians in a city. So specifically for our models, we have focused on a lot on flood risk and solar. Our models are capable also of wind as well. And so it's a really interesting use case that you've brought up. Can give a little bit of a highlight on, specific detection for certain regions. Yes, you can. It depends on the region, and it depends on how much data you can collect and how good the data is. That's one really, really important factor. So, but in terms of if you have all of the data, so specifically in the US, we have very, very good data for weather modeling, and we can of course showcase those simulations. And what that would do specifically, if you can imagine like disaster relief, and you're talking as a municipality, and you're trying to communicate with people in a city. You have the alert systems on your phone, you should evacuate. But, imagine you also look in the Weather Channel and you can see some of the stuff that the Weather Channel uses as well. But if you can kind of create this space of saying, okay, well, let's all talk about it. What would we want to pay for in terms of taxpayer dollars to help specifically put forth that effort to be proactive? That's one of the ways that you can leverage specifically visualization for in that kind of scenario. It also would be a great way for urban planners to map out what specific areas are really, really great for to tell and send a trigger response. Hey, take this highway, don't take this road, and provide directions. But at first, everybody needs to be on the same page. Otherwise, they don't know what to do. If there are no sirens, if there's no technology to alert anybody, it just really becomes it can amplify a disaster quite rapidly.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
how about the geographical locations? Are you focusing on USA, or is this something that could be used, like let's say in Prague? Because I actually happened to live in Prague, the capital of the Czech Republic,
Oh, amazing.
when there was a flood, and I used to live in the dorms that are next to the river, and I was supposed to relocate to the USA a few days, like basically at the time that was overlapping with the flood. And we were in a situation when on one side we would hear the sirens, and on the other side the people who are managing like the dorms were saying, we don't hear anything, keep sleeping. And I lived like on, I think like 19th floor, and I knew I'm supposed to relocate to the USA, so I basically just like grabbed my suitcases and moved proactively. And like the next day they evacuated people, they had to leave stuff behind, and they were not able to come back to the building for months. because they had to do inspection whether it's safe for people to like, and I had like my stuff there, but I was able to grab the suitcases to like move to the USA. So, but is this like something that could like help in Europe when we have like flood in a city like Prague, which was like flood, I think they call it like maybe this kind of flood happens once in 100 years or once in 1,000 years, so it's like pretty uncommon. Is this something that could help in these kind of regions, or are you focusing on USA, or does it depend like what kind of data you can like link to your models?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of, in terms of a lot of the stuff that we use is weather station data. So Prague and Europe is a very great place for us as well. And we do specifically a lot of work in Europe. So I'm in Europe actually right now. I'm in Milan, and Milan has been it's a very interesting city because same with flooding. On the same topic of flooding, Milan has changed quite a bit in the past decade, and so we've talked to different stakeholders across the market here, and specifically in terms of rapid rain events, it's just compounded over the past decade. And Milan sits on top of rivers. So if you can, and the city is very, very well built, amazing city, but you need to be able to track, if you're on top of rivers, the backup from storm drains and how that can compound and make a flood worse. You also have to be able to specifically understand these things. So, for example, and you can draw this correlation all the way back to Prague. If you have your entire city running, specifically like showering, running laundry, doing all of this stuff during a flood, it only makes it worse. So it only adds to the backup, and it actually has a lot of downstream effects, not only to damaging your infrastructure that then has to be insured, that and not an insurance way, absolutely from an insurance perspective, but ensured that it's safe to go back inside, that the building is still safe enough after the flood, from a structural standpoint, from a land subsidence standpoint, from any kind of erosion effects, but also just in terms of really helping identify where those risk factors are. Like going back to infrastructure, are there enough storm drains? Is everything properly placed? How are the buildings set up? Are they on stilts? So you'll see.
Oh,
Hi, we froze.
I think we just lost her.
Yeah,
The whole
let's give it a second. Hopefully she's coming back.
yeah.
Aye.
Something that you were talking about, Martina, was actually being prepared where you are, and you said you're in the Czech Republic. And
I come from the Czech Republic. I've been living in the USA for 20 years, so I'm like both.
oh,
I'm both. But I was living in the Czech Republic when the flood happened in Prague. I was actually just moving out to the USA, and there was a tornado in area where I'm from after I was already in the USA, and the approach in the Czech Republic to tornadoes was like very shocking because they didn't want to scare people. So they did not give them sirens and they did not tell them what to do. And you had videos of people standing by the windows filming tornadoes. And that's the opposite of what you are supposed to do. Yeah.
well, I'm going to post in the chat for you the European Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operation, and particularly for the Czech Republic, I'm also going to put information there. But there are organizations around the world that actually are working together to bring all the visual and all the satellite data together. I don't know that much. I'm learning about her company itself, but I work with the National Disaster Resiliency Council, and I am part of the Extreme Weather Working Group in the United States. And we use models from around the world, and they are changing. So we share data and best practices with everyone globally, because we are all in climate change together. So for your people back home, and for people in Europe, this is a start for that. But there are agencies here in the United States that engage with international organizations or governments as well. So just wanted to get you that information at least.
Yeah,
So
do you have a link that you could maybe post in the chat? And also, do you know if these kind of models are able to account for things like subway being flooded versus not being flooded? Because it makes a difference on how the city can function and how people can move around. And this is one of the things that happened back then in Prague. Basically, the subway had some kind of a very durable metal door that was supposed to protect it. They closed the subway and the unbreakable door broke and the subway got flooded. So
yeah.
do you know if these models are able to have scenario like subway flooded, subway not flooded?
So uh, there are companies that do real-time analysis and on-the-ground analysis, and that's exactly what you're talking about. When you don't have real time, then you're behind. You don't know what street is open, which dam is down, how bad the flooding is in this area. So some of the companies actually use data from cell phones, use data from Twitter, because people still try and communicate with one another. And so it kind of depends on the organization. But yes, the technology's it's coming along, most definitely. But there are those things are currently available. But, a lot of the time it's about knowing what could happen and being prepared for it. Whether you ever use the information, hopefully you'll never have to run from a volcano or run from a flood or climb a mountain to get away from or whatever. Hopefully that would never happen, but understanding that it can happen in your region. I mean, even you probably know in Kansas that hail. You know what hail is, the frozen, stones of ice. With climate change, they used to be about the size of a quarter, maybe the size of a golf ball. But now in Kansas, they're seeing the size of melons. And, not only are they
Melon.
coming, yeah,
High
melon,
size
like a,
melon
not a, not a
that can kill
watermelon, like,
that
yeah,
can, you mean like watermelon or what, like what kind of
like a cantaloupe,
oh, okay,
like a cantaloupe.
like 10 centimeters, 3
Like that,
inches?
the size your hands are, a little bit bigger
Yeah,
than open your hands just a little bit more.
okay,
Yep. No, that's a little too big, a little smaller, a little bit
okay.
smaller there. That size. So they used to be the size of a golf ball, and now they're coming down that big. And not only that, but they're coming down faster. So in the past, they used to come down at like 95 miles an hour. Now we're tracking that at 150 miles an hour. So not only are they, you know, bigger, but they're also faster, so creating more damage. And that's like the same with a lot of the different storms that we're seeing. So in an area that, oh, we normally get rain, well, what's happening is they'll get the amount of rain that they get in a whole year, but they'll get it all in a 5-hour period of time. And so the flooding and the damage from it are way bigger. And when you have drought involved with that as well. So you have a drought. So, okay, when the water finally comes, the earth, the soil can't absorb it at its normal rate. So it just runs off quicker.
So we
So
saw
there's
this.
a lot of problems with all of that. But I can go on and on about these subjects, but I wanted to get you that information because you were mentioning specifically the Czech Republic, and then you did say you were in Kansas, and I'm like, well, the people of Europe should know this too. And if you have a
I
way
know,
to get
exactly.
this information back to
Exactly,
them,
exactly.
you know,
I just learned it later on, you know. I just learned like later on that they had tornadoes and they didn't want to give people information not to scare them. And I'm like, this is
Actually,
very
actually,
dangerous. You have to give people
actually,
information what to do if there is a tornado up front.
and I think, well, I mean, and we do a lot of work in Europe. Europe is actually quite advanced in climate initiatives. I can share documents on it, but the area, what it's when we talk about this in terms of like, okay, we're all in agreement that okay, large amounts of hail, it's coming down faster, but what does that, and this is another part of what we do, but less on the visualization, but how do you drive impact in a city? How do you get the private sector to act and mitigate? And one of the things that should be thought about is really regulations around climate risk factors. So there's a really, really good landscape of regulations that really enforce protection in Europe, specifically around climate risk factors. So actually, if we look at the Paris Agreement and we look at all of the sustainable initiatives for SDG goals and any climate tech initiatives, a lot of them are stemming out of Europe, and there's a lot of big advances there. And a lot of great solutions. Like today, I was just on a call with, and this is less about water, but more about solar. This big influx. So we help with specifically solar panels and detecting PD potential, which essentially is just detecting the solar generation on different rooftops. How do you shift to renewable energies as another sustainable source for production for your cities? And that really helps lower specifically our CO2 issues. And I would say that Europe is, I mean, France is very, very advanced at this. So we were talking about, okay, if you can install solar, there's actually an interesting paint on the market that you can paint your rooftops, and that helps eliminate heat inside of the building and lowers operation costs. So the, AC that you would need, all the energy costs that you would need, because it is changing. If you have a drought region, it's hotter. And if it's hotter, it takes more energy to cool. So actually, New York, I live in New York, live um, back and forth between New York and Europe. New York is like a pizza oven in the summer because of all the AC units in outside, and it just makes the city hotter because you're blowing hot air out into the city, and it's just cooking. So all of these things, like we have to think about mitigating risk on a long-term perspective, and Europe does a very great job at really thinking long-term, and the way that they do that is through regulations and enforcing that. And I think it has been an interesting use case for us. So I would love to share that, because it's like, how do you drive value in the marketplace for climate-based solutions is one of the things. And then how do you get people to understand there are two problems that we face?
the
Yeah,
types of materials that can be used are changing too. Not only with the heat and the water and the lack of water and then the precipitation. Um, so cement is starting to fail. It's just crumbling, or rail lines like train lines are getting so hot that they're melting. Tires are starting to melt on asphalt. So there's a lot of, not only the heat factor, but the humidity factor. So that's called a wet bulb situation. So it's how much humidity can a person live in, or a plant or an animal or anything? How much humidity and at what temperature does that become deadly? And we're seeing in a lot of the tropical locations, as they're getting hotter and hotter, that is becoming more and more difficult. And I mean, even I think the top temperature that I saw in the world in 2023, I believe, was 136 degrees, which is very hot. And when you start adding humidity or taking the humidity out, I mean, there's materials considerations are having to change, and how do you bring in cooling in any capacity when if you're in a situation where you don't have electricity, or the grid is down, or you don't have electricity to begin with. What are the materials, what are the things that will metal protect you? No. Will wood protect you? A little bit better. Will bamboo? Will it be coconut? What is it? Sand seems to be so far the one thing that is a way to uh, prevent the heat from getting in and to keep the heat in. So if you're in a freezing cold situation, it's been interesting determining, because it's getting more and more dangerous, even for our first responders and our, like our emergency personnel, with they're hot, they're wearing a lot of gear, they're dealing with people that are stressed out, and so there's um, a lot of considerations, with all of this, but getting as many people prepared in whatever way that you can. I mean, having some water at home in bottles already waiting if you need it in case that goes down, or having a little bit of backup of food, or being, there's a preparedness factor and a responsibility factor, not only for yourself but your family and then those around you, because uh, it's a changing world, most definitely.
These are all excellent points. And I think when it comes to preparedness, maybe we can get inspired by Mormons who, like, if they are traditional Mormons, they are able to survive for 1 year without any shopping, without any water supply, without electricity, including all members of the family, including pets. So I'm sure when the pandemic happened,
Wow.
like Mormons were like very happy. So maybe we can see what they are doing, because they have like supply of water, they have like fireplace and wood, and they can survive 1 year of the grid, the whole family. When it comes to the other items that you mentioned, I agree that like France is very well prepared when it comes to insulation. I am familiar with the region, like northeastern region of France called Alsace around Strasbourg. And what's interesting is that they have houses built in a way that even if they don't have air conditioning, they are able to keep them cool even when it's very hot. And the way they do it is just by the way how it's built, like very durable, but they also have like these shutters that are like metal shutters that go down, and the way how you open and close them and open windows, like when it's like cooler at night and hotter in during the day, you are able to keep the house cool without AC. So that's also like pretty cool. I think like one of the gaps that I see is not like necessarily the technology, but how things are communicated. And like the tornado situation I was talking about happened in a rural area of the Czech Republic. It's like area where you have like farmers and people have never seen the tornado. It's not historically a tornado area, but recently sometimes tornadoes started popping up. So the gap I see is how this information that technically somebody has the information that tornado may form. Practically, the country is not used to communicating this to people. Like, what do you do if there is a tornado? Stay away from windows, stay away from the rooms with windows, go to a shelter. If you don't have a shelter, go to a room with no windows. If you don't have anything like that, lay in the bathtub. That's how some people survive a tornado, like lying in the bathtub. Like stuff like that, the communication, like, and I'm experiencing it even like here in the USA. Currently, I'm based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and they sometimes do have tornadoes, but they don't have a good tornado system. So sometimes people sleep and there is a tornado ripping through their street while people sleep with no sirens. So I actually ended up buying like this radio. It's like weather radio, and I'm sleeping next to the radio. And if there is like some severe weather, it wakes me up and I would be able to hide. But there is no systematic solution for the city that would wake up the whole street or everybody to go hide. So like really the communication or something more systematic for events that are not completely common in the region but can happen, and when they happen there is no communication in system that would inform like larger amount of people. That is, I think, the gap that we will need to somehow overcome to protect people and their properties, but mainly the lives of people.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely. I
Martina,
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, Martina, I'd like to intervene here because I am in Paris, France, and my
Okay.
mother was born in Prague.
Wonderful.
And my father is Slovak.
Wonderful.
But what was interesting, Perry, I tried to look for you on LinkedIn, but I couldn't find you because you
Oh,
seem very knowledgeable, and I don't know where you're from, Perry.
No, well, I'm
But-
from the United States, and
Oh, that I understood, but I don't know where your background is from and other things.
right.
But around 20 years ago in France, there was a major heat wave. And unfortunately, French don't take care of their family. So everything that you said was very true because the government officially announced so in 1 month, and I was maybe 45 at the time. I almost died because my house had a zinc roof and my bedroom was basically 50 degrees centigrade. So I don't know how much that is in Fahrenheit, but having 10 days of a heat wave with sleeping in a room of 50 degrees, it was impossible. So the reason why those 10,000 or 20,000 elderly died is because they had no water and they had no family to come and bring them water. So that case is something that had existed already. So it's a frightful thing. And I do work with Michelle, and we were discussing many things before this meeting, but it's really fun. I went into the other rooms. They were pretty exciting. So Michelle, you did a great presentation.
Thank
And I don't
you.
know, I don't know how long these rooms are. I was trying to call her when she got thrown off.
No, I
because,
really appreciated that. I don't even know. It's just a
but
different.
basically, they're wonderful people trying to save the planet. And my hero is Greta Thunberg, and she's getting, she's losing her impact because people don't want her to talk. So, I mean, just even that consequence that now France is trying to make sure. So they do have social services knocking on the doors of elderlies, but it is a complicated issue. And the heat wave, of course, is affecting greatly what's happening. And I had snow in Paris, which never happens. So the snow was still on my car this morning because normally if it snows, it doesn't last more than an hour or so. But this was a big thing for us, but I hope tomorrow will be warmer.
yeah, I bet
But
Paris
Perry,
is,
can you tell me,
I bet, go ahead.
Perry, can you just write in the chat where you're from, or if you have a LinkedIn or not, you could connect with me on my LinkedIn. She disappeared. She ran off.
No,
Yeah.
me? No,
Oh, are you
I'm,
there? Oh,
yeah,
sorry. Good for you.
I'm actually not on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile was hacked, and so I left LinkedIn. Um, I can give you my email address and we can go that way at this point, but
Well, I will change my name to my telephone number, so anybody that wants to call about France. I know a lot of you want to move to Europe. Now that the elections are over. But it's just a joke.
I don't know. There are people who want to live for 4 years on a cruise boat, and it's I think it's a real project that I
It's
heard
funny.
about. So we will see.
Yeah. Well, he's probably going to have his daughter try to come in, or Elon Musk would change the constitution that non-born on this the American souls can be changed. Schwarzenegger tried to change it too. So who
Yeah,
knows?
maybe
Maybe they'll get it done.
maybe we'll have President Schwarzenegger just like in the movie.
Yeah. Well, he'd be great. He's a wonderful person.
Yeah. Well, technically the session is over, but the fireside chat is in the full hour, so we can still stay here for like 14 more minutes or a little less, and then move to the main room if there's interest. And Michelle, since you are back, I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything.
Yes, I just wanted to say, I'm sitting and listening, and this is exactly the point of the talk is to get people talking and coming up with ideas. So I really, really appreciate all of y'all and all of the inputs today, and bring it back to my team, and really excited to move forward. So please, I'll drop my LinkedIn in here. If any of y'all would like to connect or see more of our work, we're happy to share. And if we don't have something, feel free just to, if we don't have an answer to one of your questions, we might know somebody that does. So we're happy to connect you as well. So thank y'all so much for having me here today to speak. It's been a real pleasure, and apologies for halfway through I don't know if anybody can see me, but I can't see myself. So I had a little bit issues with my hotel internet and coming back online. At least I'm halfway here. Y'all can hear me, but it's very, very ironic that now y'all can't see me. So, but anyway, it's, life is funny like that. So anyway, thank you so much. I'm going to put my LinkedIn here. And then, yeah, if y'all have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Oh, Michael, you were so cute. I like that. 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Good job.
I have a calculator, so I just did the
Oh,
quick math. Well, the only thing which I remember about Fahrenheit and Celsius, I worked in the drilling rigs in Russia, in Siberia. -40 is -40. That's easy to
yeah,
remember.
that's easy to remember.
In
When
both.
it goes down, when it's cold. Well,
Well,
I
and
was in Chicago when it hit 40, and my husband, who is French, ran out to see what it was like. And then we had an old car, and he turned the key, and it ran right away in Chicago at -40 degrees.
Yeah, I used to live in Madison, Wisconsin, and what we used to say is when it's really cold, when it doesn't matter if the temperature reported is in Celsius or Fahrenheit, because they equalize, right? So if you get to like -25, -30, -40, it's marginal which units you are using.
It's so cold there. I'm like, yeah, it's very cold there. Oh,
You
it's
know,
cold.
they are
I can't
used to
believe,
it.
yeah,
They are used to it, you know.
I know.
And like if you have city like Paris or Prague or Pittsburgh, like they get like half a centimeter of snow and the city is collapsing. We are surprised. It's winter and it snows. And nobody can get
That's like Texas.
people don't know how to drive, like the whole city collapses. And like Prague is surprised every year about like brush of snow. And Pittsburgh is the same way. You have a brush of snow, the city collapses. And I bet like if Paris has snow, I bet like the city is like stopped and everybody is like freaking out. Nobody knows how to drive in it, although we have winter tires, right? But in Wisconsin, they are so used to it that like it starts snowing at 3 a.m. They have infrastructure to clear the roads at 3 a.m. They have electric machines that clear the sidewalks. So you never have a problem. And if you ever get stuck in the car, like it stops working, people like stop their cars, they hop off, they dig you out, they use like the cables to like jumpstart you, like they are used to it. You really get used to it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's
Well, in Paris,
like,
there's no snowplow.
Yeah.
I was saying in Paris, there's no snowplows, so that's the same thing that happens here.
Yeah,
wow.
are they
That's
trying
the
to get
good news about global warming. We're not going to get enough snow to use the snowplow. So
well, are we warming up or are we getting more extremes, like more cold and bigger hails and like bigger warm and bigger cold?
Yeah, our glaciers are melting and we are seeing at a rapid rate. So it changes the climate significantly in terms of sea level rise, and then how we're seeing, you know, a higher level of uncertainty for climate related events that we're not able to right now properly adapt to. And so there's so many use cases, right? From being able to drive because we haven't seen it, right? And so all the way to just disaster relief for tornadoes. I think you really ran the gamut today, Martina, of, you know, different use cases, and it's really, really exciting to hear. And yeah, I mean, it's really going to it takes a village for us all to come together and come up with ideas and solutions and just take action. So really excited.
So Martina, did everybody give their introduction? Because I came in late. Do we know who's on the stage?
Well,
Do we know who Michelle is?
Michelle is
Do
on
we
the
know
Michelle is the speaker. Towards the end, she got dropped off due to her internet connection, but I will maybe she can say some like final concluding talks. We have like 7 minutes before there is like the closing keynote in the main room.
Yeah, I'd love to just again say thank you all so much. And please reach out. I'd love to kind of maybe we could do intros across the room if everybody feels comfortable making an introduction. If not, I'd love to just say hi to you in the chat. But again, thank you so much for tuning in, and happy to meet y'all.
So I will just quickly say I met Michelle at a conference called Change Now, which is the largest conference show about how to change the conditions and change the planets. And so it was a lot of fun. And I'm the founder of World Women Impacting Real Estate, and Michelle is the woman that impacts real estate. And it's a network worldwide. Not too many Czech members, but getting there. Thank you.
Do you also do commercial real estate? Because there is like, I have a friend, Klára Sobotkova, and she is like very involved in Panattoni that is developing commercial real estate.
Yes, I know. I've advised over 5 billion of commercial real estate, so I know it well.
Yeah, so
That's what we're
do
working
you know
on with
Klára?
Michelle.
She's probably the most impactful woman in commercial real estate in the Czech Republic.
Oh, cool. Well,
Oh, y'all should connect.
a lot of the French companies went to Czechoslovakia to do those large, terrible shopping centers. But besides that, it would be fun, and I have my number, so please feel free to contact Michelle. And it would be very good. It's midnight in Paris now, so I'm hiding behind my picture.
Wonderful. It's 5 minutes to 5.
And our
in
mathematician,
Texas.
Miguel, I'd like to know what.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what is Miguel doing?
Me?
Yes.
I
Hey, just a heads up, I'm going to close the rooms in just a minute. Frank White's in the main room. And
Alrighty.
I'll give you just a minute. Just want to make sure you didn't miss that starting up pretty soon. Okay.
Yeah, we've been trying to
I'm in
wrap up.
Ireland.
Mikhail?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm in Ireland, in Dublin. I am a startup founder, space tourism travel agency, but it kind of doesn't work. So I'll probably close it. On my weekends, I'm a skydiving instructor, and I kind of teach about skydiving, and I teach about space on the weekdays on the space travel agency side, and that's it. I just wanted to add that here in Ireland, our biggest fear is that those fresh water from the melting glaciers will disrupt the Gulf Stream, and we will all freeze here. So this is a possible problem which can happen to all of us here.
Guys, we have 4 minutes before the
Wow.
keynote starts, so I suggest that you drop your social media links in the chat and that we move to the main room. And I will stop the recording shortly, not to miss the keynote.
We already know
Valle?
that the jet stream as well as the Gulf Streams have already been affected. We're going to be seeing a considerable change within the next 10 years, Mikhail. So it's already happening. That's why those extreme weather anomalies that we're seeing, these are only going to get harder, faster, more often. And the next 2 decades, particularly a rapid acceleration of these things. So we already know that all the eddies are moving, the jet streams have already changed. So we need to slow it down if we can. The consequences are coming when we're already seeing them. So I hate to be doomsdayer, but at the same time, this is what I specialize in. So
Fly me to the moon,
reach out to
Mikhail. I'm excited. That's really cool. I love meeting entrepreneurs. So, really, really excited. We'd love to hear more.
Well, piece of advice: when you start space tourism travel agency, do marketing research. People, unfortunately, not that many people want to go to space. I was shocked. The market seemed to be much less than I was expecting it to be.
And how much were you selling that for?
Well, I'm an agent. Like, I'm putting people together. So people who want to know more about what's available now, I tell them about Virgin Galactic, Blue Origin, SpaceX, stratospheric balloon, space perspective, worldview. And the idea was that I'll live on commission, a broker fee, or special dealer prices. And technically, I didn't have proper customers yet. I connect people, but at this point, it's more like a free job. But the market was a bit slower than I expected, and then Virgin Galactic stopped flying, and Space Perspective was a bit slower than I expected. It's still a viable business, but not really. So I have to work hard on that.
Guys, we have 2 minutes before the keynote starts, so I will stop the recording. Thank you, everybody, very much. Let's move to the main floor, and feel free to share information in the chat in the main room to connect with each other. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much, y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.